Hey guys, welcome to another episode of YesUsers podcast, where we dive deep into the minds of innovators, leaders, and change makers shaping our world today. I'm thrilled to introduce our special guest for this episode, Mr. Kapil Gupta. Kapil is a multifaceted entrepreneur and thought leader. He founded or co-founded many startups, including Soul Wellness, OMLogic, and Frontlist Media. He is also a charter member of TIE Delhi, a passionate mental health activist, and the author of two books. First, In My Head, and second, India Vision, New Age of Equality, the latter being an Amazon bestseller in sociology. Join us as we explore Kapil's journey from his academic roots to his pioneering work in mental health and digital communications. So, Kapil, thanks a lot for joining us on Yes Users podcast. You are definitely one of the most interesting person we have, who has agreed to come on as a guest in the last couple of months for sure.
Thanks so much, Avinash.
Right. So, Kapil, for some of our listeners who don't know about the amazing work you have done so far, could you care to give them just a very short and crisp introduction of yourself?
Sure. So I run a mental wellness platform called as Soul Wellness, where what we are trying to do is we are trying to solve the problem of mental health by technology. And it's not, normally when you ask any startup these days who is working in mental health, they all are solving problem by technology, but all that they are really doing is creating a marketplace where they can sell more counselings or more therapy. What we are trying to do as a business is actually empower people with a set of tools and solutions that they can use anytime, anywhere. And then we provide a subscription to corporates, to educational institutes, basically to community groups to be able to work with various people within their organization. And in that extent, I've written a book. We are creating educational courses. We are, doing huge amount of work.
Wow, thanks for that context. But I understand you used to run a digital marketing agency before that, and you have done some amazing work there, which you might not want to divulge. And you have written one book earlier as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So my first book was called as India Vision. It was written nearly 3 years back. And you are right. I used to run a digital marketing agency. And as a digital marketing agency, we have worked with all sorts of campaigns. I have done political election campaigns. I was one of the people that was responsible for the Nirbhaya revolution that happened in 2012. After the Delhi gang rape case. I have worked with large corporates, with small businesses, with startups, with NGOs, and numerous other activities. So India Vision was a book where I tried to compress my experiences. I mean, having studied in the US, having worked there for 7-8 years, came back, started out digital marketing agency. So I tried to compress a lot of what I had learned from across the globe into that book.
Wow, that's really interesting. So tell us about your digital marketing experience. You said that you were part of the Nirbhaya case. So who was Nirbhaya Revolutions, I should say, right? So who was sponsoring that, and who was your client, and what was their agenda?
So that was probably the only campaign that I have done where there was no customer. We really did it because, for the first time, see, you have to understand, Nirbhaya case was very different. And the difference in the Nirbhaya case was, anytime anything would happen, whether it was a rape case or whether it was an assault or something else, we all would look at each other and say, this can't happen to me. It happened somewhere. It happened to somebody. This can't happen to me. Nirbhaya case was probably the first time, at a time when I go through every day with somebody that, very much appeared like everyone else. So there was a lot of interest in that case for that specific reason. It wasn't necessarily just political. Of course, I can tell you politics pushed things, to a different direction at that time as well. But this was one scenario where we didn't have a customer and we were doing this campaign just because we cared about the safety of Delhi. I mean, what happened back then could happen to any employee that works for me or any of my family members or anybody else I know.
Yeah, and so to be like blunt on that topic, I believe that every crime that happens in our vicinity also carry the same weightage, right? I would say the rape case which is happening in my colony, right? And it is happening, right? Whether I acknowledge it, whether I do something about it or not, can happen to everyone. In Nirbhaya case, it was the first time there was a
public outcry on that, right?
You could say that. But in my view, it's a little bit different. We usually look at such cases and we say, oh, this girl was doing this. It was at this particular time of the day. It was in this particular, the people create, even if it is just cocoons for themselves, but people kind of sit in their shell and they find out reasons why it's not related to them. With Nirbhaya, the outcry was because it was related to everybody else. At least that's how we looked at it.
Yeah, but no, that's absolutely. I think that outcry was justified. What was happening wasn't fair. But I'm probably not smart enough to understand what actually led to that outcry. And essentially, it doesn't really matter. The outcry was against a just cause. I'm not happy that, Nirbhaya case happened. I'm happy, even though it was a sad event, what happened with Nirbhaya and her family, the response was not that, we are just okay with it, right? The public...
It's not about a lot of changes.
Right.
It's not about a lot of changes. And for us, that pushed us very significantly in the directions of doing a lot of political election campaigns and other things that we ended up doing after that.
Okay, that's really interesting. So tell us something about that. So imagine that, I'm a political party representative and I come to you. So how am I different than a normal, say, corporate?
See, there are three key differences. Number one, a political party or a politician wants you at their beck and call. A brand or even a celebrity or whoever else will understand that you have teams, you have groups and everything. Politicians don't really understand that. Number two, politicians know it all. Okay, I am saying this sarcastically, but they will define everything around them without really paying heed to your knowledge and expertise as a digital expert. And it's very frustrating at times. Number three, politicians want things done in, they want a lot of negative campaigning done. So for example, when I was first working for political party and I was actually working for Indian National Congress, I kept on telling them, your biggest challenge in the entire campaign is that you talk more Modi than Gandhi.
Okay.
And I said, for me, and this is 2013 that I'm talking about, before the 2014 elections. And I kept telling them, you promote Modi more than Modi promotes Modi.
Okay.
Which was, really happening at that point of time, even though they were the incumbent, even though they were in power. Similarly, the 2015 elections happened in Delhi. I kept on telling BJP, please don't fight Aam Aadmi Party on corruption. Find other reasons to fight them. Fight them on your territory. Do not fight them on their territory, which is corruption. Anyway, so political elections in that sense are very interesting. But, as I said, that's pretty much my past. Now I am almost fully devoted to the mental health cause.
Wow. Yeah. So for our listeners, you have given, a brief introduction of what Solh Wellness does and how it is different from existing platforms. So tell us a little more about the customer journey who comes on your platform. Imagine this, imagine I'm a person who is really sad for the most of past few months and I open your app. What would I be exposed to? What I will get?
Sure. So first thing, if you are a user that comes to my app, my entire platform is available to you for free. Okay? That is the basis of when we started off. We said mental health has to be a fundamental human right. The first thing that you would get on the app when you come there is there will be a board that would say, if you are overwhelmed with emotions right now, talk to a soul counselor. And you can simply click there, no charges, no questions asked, nothing. You can simply click there and you can chat with a live counselor. Okay. Then what we have done is we have classified tools for mental health in three categories. Self-help tools. So tools that people can use with the platform. Community support tools. Tools that require usage of or working with the community at large. And expert services, which is where you work with experts and professionals, either clinical experts, which is psychiatrists and psychologists, or non-clinical experts, which is called as allied therapies. All of this is put together in the form of a mobile app platform. Now, where we make money is we sell subscription to organized community groups. Organized community group could be a corporate which is taking this subscription for mental wellness of their employees, and they are worried about improved efficiency, improved productivity, happiness, team culture, the entire corporate environment, and, employee retention. It could be for schools and colleges where they would provide it to their students, their teachers, maybe in cases of schools, even to their parents. And they would be more worried about ensuring a healthier student academic and, overall personality development. They will, of course, have their own specific issues. In schools, neurodiversity is a huge issue. In colleges, ragging and, fitting in and conformity and, relationships become bigger issues. And then we also provide our platform to community groups. Community groups could be, as disparate as, a resident welfare association in a tall building in Gurgaon or Noida. Or it could be an LGBTQ group, with some specific challenges. Or it could be somebody that is working with women, somebody that is working with teenagers, somebody that is working with addiction-based challenges, somebody that is working with cops and, law and order or whatever else. We can pretty much take any community group. The app, the platform in terms of technology is built such that it meets everybody's requirement and it is customized for every user group. Organizations get a huge benefit because they get a backend dashboard where they are able to look at organizational user data. I want to be very careful when I say this. We never provide individual user data to the organization, but at an attribute level, at an organization level, they are able to see what is going on in their organization and then, work on efficiencies, improvements, and kind of optimizing mental health in their organization.
No, that's really interesting. So essentially, right, first of all, for companies, it makes sense, right? Especially in the past 5 to 10 years, I see a lot of, improvement in companies recognizing the role of mental health on productivity, right? Mm-hmm. My follow-up questions was, are school and colleges paying for these services? Are they concerned about their wellness, right? And why don't they say to you, instead of paying you guys, why don't we just hire a counselor who can come here once a week and, put her number on WhatsApp. So anybody has an issue, they can talk to her or him.
So think about it. You work in a school, you have a problem. Will you trust the school counselor? Will she not go and report whatever you talk to the school authorities? That is problem one.
Right.
Second problem. Assuming, you are a school and you even create a counselor that can talk to people. Will you be able to provide scale?
I don't know. Yeah.
Right. Number three, what happens is when we say, let's hire a counselor and provide support, we are only talking about the, exigencies and anomalies. What I am trying to do is to do it at scale. I am not talking about the 1% people that will require counseling. I am also talking, while of course we provide counselors for them, but I'm also talking about the other 99% who probably otherwise will never do anything for their mental health and they will keep struggling. And when I say struggling, I don't really mean, they will go down the drains. It would mean they wouldn't be their productive best, they wouldn't be their happiest best, they wouldn't be their peaceful best, and they wouldn't be their efficient and, they wouldn't perform as well. So can you do something to provide that incremental growth or that incremental improvement in people? Let me ask you a question. You have a good day and a bad day. What is your productivity difference between a good day and a bad day?
It depends. It depends. Sometimes bad days leads to higher productivity. Sometimes good days leads to a lower productivity. Yeah.
If you would go, to any community other than a highly educated, evolved, and intellectual community, the difference in productivity between a good day and a bad day is very significant. Okay. And good days are always productive, bad days are always non-productive, except for when you are talking to an intellectual evolved community. Okay?
Yeah. And I'm not saying that, it is what I am feeling would be replicated across other people. No, your argument is quite valid.
Right. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to come to people like you and say, what if I provide you a platform such that you can reduce the number of bad days that you have or the intensity of the bad days that you have by having a tool, something on your fingertips that you can use anytime, anywhere, without having to worry about judgment, without having to worry about other people knowing, so in a very anonymous mode, and with the comprehensive capability to be able to help you.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
So some of the schools actually work with us and they say, Kapil, we have a counselor, we have a support structure, we have everything. You provide us the tech and get lost. But they need the tech.
Yeah, that may be. So my questions are: what's the typical ticket size? I won't ask about corporates because I understand you might be having differential pricing for them and on the basis of the number of employees they have. But what about education institutions in India? How much are they typically paying?
So let me say, typically, whether it is, in education, in corporates, it might become a little bit larger. More also because corporates are usually smaller sizes.
Yeah.
Educational institutes are usually slightly larger sizes. Our ticket price is somewhere between 1,000 rupees a year to 3,000 rupees a year. So 100 rupees a month to 300 rupees a month.
Per user.
Per user.
Per user. So if I have, say, 1,000 students, so 1,000 multiplied by 100 is per month what I would be paying to you.
1 lakh.
Okay, that's expensive. Right. But
so within this, there is a whole bunch of services that gets, including providing a counselor, including doing ongoing sessions, including providing the entire tech that is required, including providing some capabilities for parents as well. So there is a whole bunch that is included in this.
Absolutely, I'm sure. But as someone who has sold to education institutions, it's a hard sell. And kudos to the great work you are doing. Would you like to share how many education institutions are on board?
So currently we have nearly 20 overall organizations, if I talk about, nearly 20 overall organizations that we are working with.
20 overall organization, including enterprise and education. Trust me, it's a great number. I know to somebody who is not well versed with enterprise or large organizations selling, they don't understand how difficult it might have been to reach that number. So kudos to you.
The interesting thing is, wherever we go, we are getting amazing. See, there are probably 50 startups that are working in the mental health space in India. We are very differentiated from all 50 of them. So we have carved out a very unique space. Our tech is beyond, what other people are even comprehending at this point of time. We are fairly well evolved in that sense. Of course, some of the other organizations are much larger in size than what I am right now.
Yeah.
But our tech is, very evolved.
I hope so. And last year, I used to work out of a co-working space in Noida. There were a bunch of people who were working on a mental health startup, and I'm happy to be honest. You might see 50 people are doing. I look at it as a positive because what I feel is mental health has so much stigma around it that maybe there is no one silver bullet. Maybe we need a lot of people trying from different angles to solve this problem. And the approach that you guys are taking is really interesting because what I feel, what is really unique about your approach is that by making it available to everyone, right? And saying that, by using this tool, it's not necessarily that you have a mental health issue. You take out the stigma from the process. And over the time, by using their tool, they realize, there is some bigger problem. I don't think just 1% people have mental health issues, but they belong to that smaller group where they would need more help, right?
I didn't say 1% people have issue. I said 1% people or less go for counseling or therapy.
Okay, who have issues, right? Oh, so that's we have such a large number of people who have mental health issues. So any idea, is there an estimate which guesses how many people in India have mental health issues?
So, well, first of all, when you say mental health issues, for me, that's a strange word because for me, everybody has mental health issues. But according to, let me quote research instead of giving my numbers, 1 in every 8 people suffer from a mental health issue in adults, and 1 in every 6 suffer from a mental health issue in kids.
Wow. So yeah, we need
numbers.
Is there any scientific backing to the tools that you are providing?
Absolutely. I mean, we are very scientifically backed. We have a lot of experts on our panel. I mean, my co-founder is a psychiatrist. My advisor is a psychologist. We have nearly 500 professionals, mental health professionals that work with us. It is absolutely very scientifically based. For example, the screenings and assessments that we do on the platform are also all standardized tests that we have taken. So it's absolutely scientifically backed. The data that we make available to organizations actually helps them optimize the overall mental health of the organization as a whole as well.
Right. And see, the reason I'm asking, right? Because wherever things are complex, right? A lot of pseudoscience kinds of comes in, right? So we have a whole industry of self-help gurus, right? Who have been trying to help people, right? And are they successful? Are they not successful? I'm not here to argue on that. Right.
I have a point.
My question to you is, see, so imagine how many tools do you have on your platform?
So around 20 tools are
around 20 tools. Right.
Let me say one thing about your previous. Right. See, and I have this argument with my daughter, who is a co-founder in this mental wellness startup. I have this argument with her, multiple times. See, when you say there are numerous people, pseudoscience, and numerous people who try to do something, I don't know if they are effective or not. See, if you really would go down to it,
right?
A lot of people that do self-help, their users, they say that they got help.
Right.
Whether you go to a Sandeep Maheshwari, whether you go to a Vivek Bindra, whether you go to a Shiv Kheda, whether you go to a Rahul Jain, whether you go to whoever else, their users say that they got help.
So your argument is, just because there are some people who have said that, by using Baba Ramdev's medicines, I have gotten help, right? So Supreme Court is wrong in stopping them from selling the medications?
See, let me not get, that will become a political question. Let me answer the question from a mental health perspective first. See,
right.
Everybody has different stimulations in life. Every individual's mental health journey is unique, which is why, the Soul platform is required with 20 different tools that people can customize per their needs. Everybody has a unique set of journey. So everybody will decide what stimulations work for them and then work on their mental health using those stimulations. If you believe in numerology or tarots or Reiki or Feng Shui or, some spiritual or some religious beliefs, who am I to tell you you are wrong?
No, you're not. You're not. I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing that. My only limitation in that case would be, see, there are people who believe in numerology. There are people who believe in Reiki. I'm not going and stopping that. My only issue comes when these people who are offering numerology or Reiki, they start claiming that their solution is science-backed. As long as they're not using that term, I have no issues. Whatever helps people, they have every right to do that. I am nobody to help. So my question to you is,
in case of mental health, even science is not science-backed.
Right. See, now you're going on a very different tangent, right? So that's like essentially, your users are benefiting you. I'm not here to argue on that. My question is, very simply, is each and every tool of you is proved to have increased efficacy as per a peer-reviewed journal? As each and every tool.
See, when you say peer-reviewed journal,
right.
It's not even feasible. What we are doing is groundbreaking in terms of the overall methodology. It is backed by science in the sense that we have done a lot of...
How would you argue? Okay, define me, what does the backed by science means?
So all of the specific tools that we use have in the past been used in different forms, physically, digitally, or in controlled environments all across history. Okay, and I'm not even saying used by psychiatrists or psychologists now, but used all across history. For example, if I give you a support group, okay, support groups have been used since like ages, right? You have addiction-based support groups, you have gender identity-based support groups, you have other empowerment issues. The chopal that happens in the park right next to your house, or, the ladies that sit around in the afternoon when it is sunny, they are all support groups. Okay, so there is no question of whether it is backed by science or not. The question is, can I actually digitally fix this? Can I digitally create an environment that could simulate the support groups that would, be available in the physical world? Similarly, tracking your
My question, I asked you the question, what is the meaning of backed by science? So your first argument is that something which is generally accepted to benefit people would be considered as backed by science. Is my assessment right?
No, I mean, when you say that, it almost seems like, it's there is no logic and rationale, and we are just.
No, that's not the argument. Actually, that's not the case. See, usually, when you are running fear, you should put something on your head, right? Like usually it is considered to be good for the patient, right? And my question is, in your definition, will that remedy will be considered as backed by science?
So we are providing all sorts of capabilities. Some of them are allopathy capabilities. Some of them are psychiatry, psychology capability. Some of them are other remedial methodologies. I don't think the question of which one of these individually are backed by science or not. I think the question is, are we providing a holistic environment that takes care of everything that an individual may require for their mental health? And then we are not prescribing a journey. So we are not coming to you and saying you do 1, 2, 3, and then you will feel like this, and then you do 4 and 5. We are saying here is a tool suite that is available to you. Oh, by the way, your journey has to be customized. Your journey has to be personalized based on you, based on how your mental health works, based on what your stimulations are. So you decide how do you want to formulate your user journey or your mental wellness experience on an ongoing basis. So that's really where we want to play, and that's really what the answer specifically in terms of mental health is. See, what happens is, what science means is, I have diabetes and I take metformin or insulin. Okay, I have high blood pressure and I take a medicine for high blood pressure. I have fever and I take a decode or some other medicine for the fever. I have cold and I take a medicine for the cold. Mental health doesn't necessarily work like that. Unless you are talking about some very specific cases of chemical imbalance. Mental health doesn't really work like that, both in its causes or in its symptoms or in its remedy. So in case of mental health, you can't necessarily look at the paradigm of physical diseases and extrapolate that to meet with mental wellness requirements.
I think a lot of doctors who are my friends who are working in as a psychiatrist, as a counselors. My point is, just
I haven't found any psychiatrist who has agreed with it.
doesn't mean that you are sick, right? That's not necessary, right? For example, I go to a doctor and say तेज मेरी टांग में मोच आ गई है. Doctor मुझे कहता है कि यार तुम ना गर्म पानी से सेक करो, right? So in your opinion, that's not medical treatment. Nobody is prescribing you a medicines. That's not a treatment.
No, it's hot water, what is called as rice.
Right.
This is a treatment. This is of course a medical.
अगर मैं किसी के पास जाता हूँ and somebody says to me, right, use this tool, use this technique, right? In mental health, there are a lot of techniques which doesn't require prescription, which doesn't require a counselor, right? So even that would be considered as a treatment, right? So see, in my argument, the mental health and physical health, they are exactly the same. The level of rigor through which we check a technique, right, should be the same, right? Just because one treatment should not be advocated for mental health, which have a less rigor than what would be normally suggested for a physical treatment, right? That's all essentially my argument. And in that way, I see both of them are exactly the same.
Yeah, but in case of mental health, the treatments are not as readily available. Specifically when you think about preventive, specifically when you think about providing it at scale, and specifically when you think about providing it to everybody.
Right. No, that's absolutely, you have a big point there. But my question again is that you have every right to offer the tools, right? I'm happy that I'm sure people are getting benefited by it. But the until unless they're backed by science, right, where they have peer reviewed journey with said,
Aviansh, let me turn this around. Let me ask you, what do you mean by backed by science?
So I'll give you my definition. Any third-party peer reviewed, which has been verified and the results has been replicated a decent number of times, will be considered as a backed by science, in my opinion.
Will science consider a mood tracker system through which you track how you have been feeling at a specific point of time, and then going back in history and figuring out what made you feel good, what made you feel bad, and doing an analysis? Will science consider that as a peer review?
I have actually read a research paper on this. This topic itself, where the participants were asked to track their mood, and they were asked to subject them, and then they have made a couple of hypotheses because of this is happening. And then there were other people who have gone there and done that, and they have found similar results. Right. So that would be considered by back. But imagine this, right? If that's what it is saying, what is stopping me from saying to somebody, like, I open a platform, right? I build a lab, and whenever you are stressed, I ask you that you stand on one leg, right? And it will help you bust your stress. Or you do the, I don't know उसका नाम क्या है, तो एक उल्टा आसान नहीं होता जिसमें आप सर के बल पे ले जाते हो, right? That is stopping me from saying that it will help you stress, right? So where would that line draw, where we would say, like, जो is completely made up of my own head, जो मेरे दिमाग में लग रहा है कि मुझे ये सही होता है, right? वो कहाँ पे वो stop होगा, and when there will be a point where it will say that, this is backed by science. There has to be some point, right?
You make a absolutely valid point. Let me answer it in two different ways. First of all, as a platform, we empower people with tools. Okay. All of the individual specific tools that we use are backed by science, both in terms of what has been done in the past, as well as in terms of inputs and reviews and everything that have been taken
backed by science, according to my definition of backed by science.
According to your definition also. Like each one of the individual tools, okay, in different degrees, in different ways and form. Now, the combination of these tools to provide a comprehensive capability, it was never even feasible. In that aspect, we are groundbreaking. Okay. Now, also let me go to the other side. See, we don't offer a solution. We don't offer an answer to the person. We empower them with tools and solutions that we ask them to personalize and customize based on what works for them. So we are not somebody that will go in and say, take this medicine, or that would go in and say, do this asana, or, practice this particular approach. We don't even say practice meditation. We say meditation works for some and doesn't work for some. Yoga works for some and doesn't work for some. Journaling works for some and doesn't work for some. Even going to a therapist works for some and doesn't work for some. So what we say is, empower people with a comprehensive set of tools and solutions that they can customize and personalize based on their own unique requirements on an ongoing basis, make it available anytime, anywhere, and let them get wellness.
Okay, agreed. So I'll go and check that, right? That each and every tool that you are saying, that, where there has been a peer-reviewed study to back that up, right? And if that's the case, kudos to you, right? Making that available,
download the platform and check.
I'll do that. I'll do that, right? See, if that's the case, that each of the tools that you are saying has been used in the past and is verified by a third-party peer-reviewed journal, kudos to you. There are very few, I would say, wellness startups who can claim that. There are very few. Congratulations and kudos to you for doing that. Now, moving on, looking at your entrepreneurial journey and picking out nuggets for our listeners, you transition from a digital marketing expert, right, to mental health wellness entrepreneur, right? So why was that transition? What made you do this transition?
So, one, I was bored of being a digital marketing agency. Is the beginning point. Okay, I've done it for 15 years of my life. As I said, I have done pretty much anything and everything there is to do in the world of political election campaigns, in the world of corporate branding, in the world of NGO promotions, in, almost anything and everything that somebody can do in digital marketing.
What was the shittiest or the most unethical thing that you have been part of?
I was once sent, I didn't do the campaign, but I was once sent, and when I will say this, some people will get the hint. I was once sent the CD of a member of parliament fucking somebody in their office and asked to create a campaign to help them, which I said I can't do it.
Okay, moving on. So getting bored was the first motivation.
Yeah, and second, in right when COVID started, I saw something change. Problems and challenges in mental health have always been there. I mean, since probably the dawn of humanity, they've been around. But post-COVID, people lost the ability to deal with them. And in what I saw across, and I mean, it's not like I saw it with this one specific person, what I saw all across really seemed like it needs an immediate intervention. Okay. And then I started researching and looking more deeply into that particular area. I also started looking at, why do I not get unhappy or depressed like other people do, which, many people find as a problem. So I started looking at that, and, one thing led to the other, and it just made sense to create something in mental health which gets driven by technology. So I have this phrase that I sometimes use. Most mental health startups are currently working on, there is this age-old Second World War quote that says, when there is blood on the street, there is money to be made. Most mental health startups today are working on that. How do I increase more therapies? How do I increase more counselings? How do I push more people to take a session? We don't want to do that. We're very clear. For everybody, we think mental wellness need to become a fundamental human right, which is available to them for free. And then there are capabilities that gets created on top. And there is organizational level wellness that we can work on, where, of course, we can make money, we can, recover our costs, we can make it a profitable venture. But from an individual user perspective, mental health need to be available free of charge. And these are the two kind of prime aspects that we wanted to bring into this world, into the mental health area. So one was we identified, and saw there is a huge problem that needs a solution. Second, we saw everybody that was working in that area was providing, a useless solution. I mean, if I could take that jump, and I don't mean to say every startup that is working in mental health is useless, but, nobody was thinking comprehensively in the manner that I thought the implementation needs to be. And that's kind of what drove me towards this area. And, 2.5 years since we started, here we are.
Wow.
And one interesting thing that we also do, there is a challenge in mental health. We very sincerely believe mental health needs an ecosystem. Okay. The challenge is whenever you start talking about an ecosystem, it needs a lot of investment. And whenever you need an investment, investor will come in and he will say, I'm not interested. Tell me one thing, that one feature that sells and is replicable. And hence starts the journey of startups trying to sell more counselings and therapies because that makes money and that is replicable. And they end up not making money post that. Okay. We were very clear. We want to create this ecosystem. So for the first 2.5 years, actually even to date, we did not take any money from outside. Okay. We incubated this startup internally and we created an entire ecosystem. So currently I have a book that we have done on mental health. We have educational courses and programs created on mental health. We run a quarterly journal on mental health. We do a monthly magazine with authors and publishers and booksellers and everything. We have this platform that we provide to everyone. We have psychologists, and now we are capturing the entire length and breadth of mental health in an order to create the ecosystem it requires. And now very recently started looking at investment. And we are going to our investors and saying, you don't have to worry about creating an ecosystem that is already built. Right. Now let's move forward and let's figure out what sells better and let's scale it up and let's sell and, make a business out of it. What we have done over the last 2 years sitting in our, in kind of deep trenches, that work needed to be done. And without doing that, you can't really create a successful mental health startup in my view.
Okay. That's your hypothesis. I don't personally agree with that. But right, what one caveat that I'll ask, just see, mental health startups are not bad just because they are looking to scale stuff, right? Because if that was the case, I think among all the mental health startups that I've seen, yours is the most scalable. Like having a scalable model in itself inherently is not bad, right?
I'm not saying that.
Right. Because I have said that.
I'm saying that.
for one thing that is replicable, which is selling, right? Anybody can make the same argument about you. I think your startup is more scalable because once you have built the tools, there is no limit on scalability. In other startups, they sell more therapy, they have to hire more people. In startup speak, that's not scalable model. Right. Okay. Anyway, as we're running out of time, I'll ask just one question. What is the best professional advice that you have received so far?
What is the best professional advice that I have received? That's, instead of giving advice, can I give a story?
Yeah.
You know, I ask sometimes this question of young people that I meet, and I'm known to sometimes mindfuck them. But let me ask the question. Assuming you, of course, everybody is a kid at one point of time and they have parents. There are parents who are very involved in the parenting.
Right.
Very involved. In some cases, the kid grows up to say they were always there. They never let me be independent.
Right.
In some cases, they will grow up and say they were amazing parents. They were always very supportive. Let's look at the other way around. They were not involved in anything that you did at all. Somebody grow up and say they never bothered. And somebody would grow up and say they gave me independence. So I very sincerely believe, and which is why I tend not to give people gyan like that. I ask people, which of the four do you belong to? Which in many cases screws up people's head a little bit. And then it gives them a lot of clarity post the screw up. But anyway, I don't think there is a question of anybody giving personal or professional wisdom to somebody. I think everything that you hear, I take every small and big point that I receive from the cab driver that I work with, to the peon that I have in my office, to that mentor that I really look up to. I like to hear everything from them. I like to absorb it all. And then I like to make choices in my life. Not, I won't blame them for the failure I have, and I won't attribute them for the success I have. I say I would hear everything and I will internalize it, and I will, kind of evaluate it and use it for wherever it fits in my life. So it's really not possible for me to say that one professional wisdom that I got from somebody. There are numerous. I mean, I can talk about 100 different anecdotes of what people would have said and how I took it and how that worked for me or did not work for me. But I don't think I can give one specific response to that.
Okay. No, that's very interesting. And, on the example that you gave, I say to the people, everyone spans them up. Is it just for different reasons? So whatever your parents do, yeah, there is a perspective to take. There is an angle to take that your parents have grew up in some specific way.
Yeah, I also
decide up doing, right?
Like, I also use this with parents to tell them, don't bother with what you are doing. Do whatever works well for you. And, your kids will grow up with whatever they will grow up with.
Right. Yeah. So, Kapil, thanks a lot for joining us on the podcast. It was really entertaining and informative. We hope to welcome back you soon.
Hey, thanks so much, Avinash.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us on this enlightening episode of the YesUsers podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure having Kapil Gupta with us today. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to learn more about Kapil Gupta, be sure to visit his website at kapilgupta.in. You can also follow him on LinkedIn. I'll provide a link for both these things in the description. In the end, don't forget to subscribe to the YesUsers podcast for more inspiring stories and discussions with remarkable individuals like Kapil. If you found value in today's episode, please share it with your friends and colleagues, and leave us a review to help us reach even more listeners. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible. This is YesUsers podcast signing off.